Welcome to the Jamodi podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Biology Skills Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NAIA, NJCAA, and a growing number of NCAA coaches to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 4-minute, 40-shot test can be taken free today on the Biology mobile app. Elevate your game. What's your favorite style of play to teach with your teams or to teach other people?
I have to say dribble drive. I ran it since 2008. I was a flex coach. I've messed around with, sure, people have experienced this where you're watching and you're young and dumb and you go, oh, Kansas won a national championship. Let's go run the high-low when Bill Self was running that. So you go put that in. But then I stumbled across dribble drive on an accident. It was a summer game where we were losing, and I think I've been a couple of years with the new job, and I was the ex-coach at this school, and we're playing San Dimas High School in a summer league game. And the program I was at, I was building. We were never any good, and they were struggling. They were bottom of the barrel in the league. We're playing a summer league game. We're down 6 with 2 minutes to go. I call timeout and say, we're going to press full court, make or miss, and we're going to drive it to the basket and shoot a layup. If you draw 2 defenders, kick it to a player spaced out, and we're going to shoot. So that's what we got it into overtime. The kids go, we get into overtime, and my point guard goes, we got to run 2-guard, which was our version of flex. And I said, screw 2-guard, continue to do what we just did to put it into overtime. And this is prior to knowing who Vance was and what it was. So that was the origin of it. And then when I got his video and started studying it, the one thing that stuck and changed my mind on this stuff was, what do you do when you're down 6 with a minute and a half to go? Yeah. You usually tell your players exactly what I just said. Well, if that's what you teach them when you're behind, why don't you teach that throughout the whole 32 minutes? So that you never, so you always have a chance to come back. So my thing is going to blow people's mind is studying it over the years, and I do have a course and stuff on it, but it's a framework. I don't even know if it's really an offense. I think people should teach this, and it can go with any offense you want to teach, because the question always remains is, if your players put the ball on the floor and penetrate to the basket, do they know where they can pass the ball to, or do the players know where they should move in relationship to the penetration?
Yep.
And you can go Princeton with it, you can go flex with it, you can go high post spread, but bottom line is, if you're watching these games on television, they're running sets. But late in the games, you watch Duke, Michigan State, you watched Arizona last night, they're putting the ball on the floor and attacking the hole.
Yeah.
They're not scoring. Teams are taking away the sets. They're scouting sets. It's, unfortunately, not all of us have it, but they're making players have to make plays. So it's a mindset. It's not an offense. It's a mindset and a framework, teaching people spacing and their penetration rules and the attack mindset. That's why I think it's great to teach at the high school level, like your freshman team and moving up. And you got to add things to it, just like anything. If you were a flex coach, when I started flex, you were able to go slot to slot and just run the flex pattern, and you might have got shots. Then people learned more about it, started taking away the actions, and now you have to run counters like St. Peter's did. St. Peter's and Providence are running the 1980s flex offense that is still successful for their programs. They're both in the Sweet 16. So, but you watch them, they put the ball on the floor, and players know how to rotate and move. So if you don't teach that, I think it's hard for me. Dribble drive, why I like it is I think you almost have to start with it. It's hard to teach like a Princeton and then go DDM. It's hard to teach a flex, then go DDM. I think it's easier to go in reverse.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think watching so much of it's even college basketball, it's running plays, but there's no emphasis on making plays until they run an action that it doesn't really look like, and maybe there's some strategy involved of we're playing a superior team. We need to shorten the game by having longer possessions. So we're going to run some action without really ever looking to score. And there's rarely any double gaps to attack. But then, oh crap, it's 8 seconds left on the shot clock. Isolate, either ball screen, and try to get to the paint and create for each other. But like you said, we're teaching not an offense, but concepts that will allow our players to. I mean, the essence of great playmaking is engaging two. If you can score against one, you're good. If you can attack and engage another, you're special. And I think what we're talking about allows players to do that really well. And you nailed it. But they have the escapes, they have the next options there, and they're confident with that. Because I see guys drive in these college games, maybe even in the middle of the action they're trying to run, but there's a single gap, not a double gap. There's a player and a body in the way of where they're trying to get. And we're just talking about simplifying it and breaking it down.
Yeah, I've said numerous times on podcasts and clinics is if your offense is not creating closeouts, you have a crappy offense. And my thing is at the high school level, I mean, you see it at the levels, and it almost cost TCU in regulation. They set a high ball screen in the middle of the floor late in the game. In my eyes, some of these guys can get downhill if you just send the cutter through and open up that double, triple gap.
Yeah, slice.
Why bring another defender up where they could trap you and blow it up? I mean, how many times do you watch end of game situations? And I'm a big LeBron fan, but guy just ISOs at the top and he stands there and does a step back three late in the game. Almost every time that's his last shot where, geez, just send a gap, send it through, and no one can stop you.
Yeah.
And if
He's
they do,
biggest, baddest dude on the floor. Yeah.
If they do, pass the basketball.
Yeah.
To a shooter. And the ball screen is great again, but it I think causes a lot of problems. But what you nailed was why people do it is for matchups. That people don't understand why they use ball screens. And number two is it does put two on the ball to create I'm putting them into rotation, scrambling, closeouts, what have you. So ball screens with dribble drive. I mean, people are starting to add ball screens to dribble drive. You're mixing in staggers away to get some movement. So now dribble drive has become the flex of the 80s, where when I first put it in 2008, I was a little bit ahead of the curve. You can go middle penetration, send your player behind, kick it, and they just go straight downhill, and someone's going, what do you mean that player's going behind? They're supposed to flare to the wing like
right.
in a
They're
normal.
To push away, yeah.
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 The circle movement, if you will, of read and react type style of offense. And they're like, what is this? Now people switch that and zone it. And so you got to have cuts and fully understand. And you're teaching players, don't drive single gaps, only drive double and triple gaps. The big saying is pass through single gaps and drive through doubles and triples. And when people are coming to me or going, hey, I'm struggling with this, I always say, are you opening up gaps?
Yep.
Are you getting ball movement? Or is your point guard the only person ever initiating the offense? And it develops players.
Yep.
I always joke like, I ran flex, so it's not really a knock, and I'm loving what St. Peter's is doing, but it's hard to get kids to go to the park nowadays anyways to play. But if they're going to go to the park or they're going to go play, they're going to probably work on attacking and they're going to work on shooting.
Yeah.
They're not going to work on coming off a flex cut. or setting a flex cut at the park.
I think you nailed it there. Is the type of playing we're talking about. What do all coaches want? They want higher engagement from their players. They want more buy-in. They want more intrinsic initiative to get in the gym and work on their game. But if you're running a style or playing an offense that deep down, listen, coach, we run flex. I'm only a screener. Can I go now? Can I leave? Like you're gonna have that feeling from players. But when all of them listen, if you put in the time, and if you can attack off the bounce, there's a lot of fun that you can have. But if you can catch and shoot, there's a place for you too to really maximize that skill. Man, I feel like you'll just have a lot more involvement and buy-in from them.
Well, people are the big buzzword is conceptual offenses, right? So with COVID and with injuries and it's an offense that you can do 2-on-2 in practice, 3-on-3. You're just playing off spacing and playing off. You don't have to have 10 players at practice to run in practice playing. It's skill developing within an offense. So I said this about a few weeks ago. I almost want to change the name of it to DMO, decision making offense.
Oh, I like
not dribble drive. I mean, it's just I get out in the paint. What decision do I make? Do I score it? What finishing move? Who helped? Who do I give it off to? Okay, he drove. The other 4 players are. What decision do I make based upon where he went off of his penetration? Yeah. So it's biggest problem with it is people just watch the ball and people they're not getting how to play off of the ball, I call them vomit shots when you drive and there's 2 or 3 people in the lane and they just still throw it up at the backboard. And you say, because of analytics and all that stuff, I think we're going to get into that later, but just because you're getting in the paint doesn't mean it's a good shot. So
at the basis of every offense is shot selection. Like day 1 meeting next year. All right, guys, we're going to start with shot selection because that loses games, that wins games. People you could talk. Well, turnovers are big. Yes, they are. Rebounds are big. Yes, effort. If you're not giving effort, you're not going to win anyway. But shot selection is something we can really control, and it's very personal for people. So having a scale and having verbiage that everybody on your team understands and can be on board with, I don't care what you run. When you nail down shot selection, a guy goes to the paint and he understands that the degree of difficulty in the shot that he's about to take is not what we're looking for. His eyes will go up. He'll start to chill, relax in the paint, and find that open shooter. But I've seen shot selection be something that you got to nail down early.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.